My name is Mike. I'm with Bronx Magazine, and we're here talking with Congressman-elect Jamaal Bowman. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, brother. Thank you so much for having me.
So these last primaries were very, very momentous in the Bronx. You ran against an opponent who was in office for 30 years. So how did it feel like while you were going through your campaign and also on election night?
Yeah, so, from the very beginning, we believed we had a chance to win because we knew we were going to do everything in our power to connect with the grassroots and connect with the people most impacted by bad policy that's come from Washington over the last 30 years. And it wasn't just about my opponent, it was about a system of oppression that leaves Black and brown communities marginalized, that leaves poor communities marginalized. And it's something that the people feel on a day-to-day basis. So we connected early and often directly with the people. We went to Eden Wall projects, Gun Hill projects, Boston Seacourt, Co-op City, Baychester, Wakefield, Yonkers, Mount Vernon. We went straight to the communities that have been mostly ignored, knocked on doors, listened, learned about the issues that mattered most. And through that process, we built authentic, deep relationships with people throughout the district from the very beginning. So that gave us the power, and that gave us the momentum, and gave us the support we needed to ultimately win. And on election night, quite honestly, it felt like a celebration. It felt like the community coming together to support, our campaign because of the relationship building work that we've done throughout. And let me just say, we won the Bronx substantially, but we also won Westchester as well. And many people didn't believe that we would have a shot in Westchester and didn't believe we would have a shot in parts of the Bronx. And we were able to win both pretty substantially.
Yeah, it's really refreshing to hear you say that you were really on the ground meeting with people, and it's also kind of funny to hear that people did count you out in these places when you were actually there. You were actually there making those connections, actually doing the work that is necessary to hear people in these communities and to actually meet those needs. So as you mentioned, District 16 covers a very wide swath of the Bronx and also Westchester, and there's a lot of different socioeconomic groups, a lot of different demographics. So how would you reconcile the needs of, let's say, residents in the North Bronx, like in Gun Hill and in Wakefield, with those in Scarsdale and Rye?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, at a very basic human level, we all want the same thing. Uh, we all want dignity and respect. We all want opportunities, both economically and educationally. We all want to be safe and secure. And we all want and deserve resources for our community. So, at a very basic level, we all want the same thing. Issues like environmental justice stretches the boundaries or crosses the boundaries of white, wealthy Westchester and lower income Bronx because, environmental racism, as well as the environmental catastrophe that we're dealing with, is going to impact everyone, right? So that's an issue that crosses boundaries. Education is another issue that crosses boundaries, even though there are many in the district who grew up white and wealthy. There's still a lot to be desired in the education systems there because we have a traditional system that puts, the ultimate goal of the system is for you to, be on a pathway to a high performing college, right? To an Ivy League school. Like that's the ultimate goal. But we have learned and we understand that that is not the goal for everyone. That doesn't leave everyone fulfilled. And there are multiple opportunities to really tap in to the innate brilliance of all of our children, regardless of race, class, or background. And for me, my campaign was centered on racial and economic justice, and people in Westchester care about those things as well. And it was centered on human rights and our common humanity. So regardless of background, whether you're, queer, straight, black, white, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, whatever, what is our common humanity? And how can we organize and strategize and mobilize around our common humanity towards building a better country? I mean, that's the goal. So that's how we were able to connect and relate to people across the district.
That's so key. And I really appreciate, I'm a 3-time college dropout. I couldn't just do it twice. I had to go a third time. I appreciate your views on education, and being an educator, you would know firsthand. So kind of going back to your days as an educator, how do you feel about, the schools opening up now, and what would you sort of recommend if you were kind of empowered?
Yeah, so we partnered with the University of Pennsylvania to do a comprehensive study on school reopening and what the needs truly are, and when would we be actually truly ready to go back to school, assuming all the resources are brought to bear. And just to be clear, at this moment, they are not. We do not have all the resources we need to open our schools. The federal government has to respond, in particular, the Senate, the United States Senate needs to respond and make sure to pass the HEROES Act so that we can get the resources to our public school. That hasn't happened yet. But New York City and New York State have done a good job of lowering the amount of COVID cases to the point where, some type of reopening with in-person instruction can be done safely. I'm happy that we have paused and we're not rushing back next week. I'm glad that we are, going back at the end of the month. It sounds like it's been a collaborative effort, which is great, but we still need those resources. So while we will continue to do the best we can, those resources matter. And if we get the resources, retrofitting our schools for the proper ventilation and circulation and safety protocols is going to matter tremendously. And if that happens, we'll be able to continue through November and through the school year. But the November through February period is key because that's also flu season. So this is just, it's an unprecedented time for everyone. We really need the federal government to step in and do more for all of us. But I'm happy that New York State and New York City in particular, we got our numbers very, very, very low at this moment because we paused. And the unions the unions put a lot of pressure on the city, which is a good thing. It's a healthy tension that needs to happen, and it seems like we got a collaborative solution that most people agree with. And then for the parents who are choosing to do remote learning and have the capacity to do that, that's great. Childcare is being provided for the city, which is excellent. So, as I've always said throughout my career, we need a holistic approach to education. And right now with this pandemic, we were forced to take a holistic approach in order to open safe. That's a great question. Wow, that's a great question. I'm embarrassed I don't want to give my unhealthy choices. I don't want to do that. But near our school, and this is what's weird about my school was located off of Boston Road and Dyer Avenue, in between Boston Road and the New York Thruway, right around the corner from Boston Seaport. Huh?
Like Connor Street?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where it is, right? So it's an industrial area. So not much is out there. But if you're able to take a ride right over that little highway that leads to Pelham, there's a Panera Bread there that we would often frequent. There's a Fairway there, I believe, that we would also frequent. And there are two places that are closer, the Dyer Avenue Diner and Cozy Diner as well on Boston Road. So any one of those four. And when I try to be healthy and would just get a shake or something like that, there's a Freckles Juice. Freckles Juice is right off of Dyer Avenue, right off the 5 train on that same block. I actually just came from there this morning. During the summer, I've been starting my breakfast at Freckles Juice.
Nice green juice?
Yeah, today I had the brain food, it's called. I had a brain food with additional flaxseed and spirulina.
Very dope. I used to work. I used to be a teacher assistant, so I used to work in a school around there as well. I couldn't
Hmm.
resist. I'd go to McDonald's to be honest. But yeah,
McDonald's?
yeah.
Oh no, I haven't. I haven't eaten McDonald's in years, man. And
Wait,
when I do cheat at one of those places, I'll do Burger King.
mm,
But I'm 44 and I'm not as in good a shape as I used to be. So when I eat that stuff, like it just derails my entire day. So I got to stay away from that stuff.
can't take that risk.
Nah, I can't do it. Can't do it.
So so also District 16 it also overlaps a couple of assembly districts, and we want to know, are you planning to work with those assemblymen in those districts?
Absolutely. I have to, and we have to. We our communities have been neglected and ignored for far too long. We have housing issues. We have public housing that hasn't received a dime from the federal government in 10 years. We have transportation issues. Our MTA is underfunded and under-resourced, and people in Co-op City, which is the largest naturally occurring retirement community in the world, are struggling with the lack of transportation. Our schools are underfunded. We need jobs programs. We got to deal with environmental justice. We have so many issues, and the only way to solve those issues is to strategize together, collaboratively, with local elected officials. So I plan to work in collaboration with county officials, city officials, state officials, to get done what needs to get done. And we have, we continue to concentrate wealth in the hands of large corporations and in the hands of the wealthy elite on Wall Street. And it's time for us to hold Wall Street and the wealthy elite and large corporations accountable by ensuring they pay their fair share of taxes. And whenever they break the law, we have to hold them accountable legally, because we need to bring uh, billions of dollars of resources into our communities to even the playing field. That's why I support reparations, because, Black Americans in particular have been historically neglected, oppressed, disenfranchised, and we've dealt with political and economic terror while we've been in this country. And it's time for us to take reparations very seriously and truly invest in the communities that need it most. So we have to work in collaboration and get this done. We can't be one-off isolationist politics. We have to work together, and we have to work with community.
Yeah, that's so important. Bringing communities together and doing what's right by the people. Um, Speaking on some of the issues, you also campaigned on national rent control, and we know that communities are hurting, and there's a lot of fear because of the eviction moratorium that's going to be lifted very soon. So, can you talk about your policy and your ideas on national rent control?
Yeah. Rent needs to be canceled throughout the duration of this pandemic. Small mom and pop mortgages also need to be canceled throughout the duration of this pandemic. We need a blockade on evictions to make sure landlords don't try to evict tenants who cannot afford to pay their rent. And that's the thing, people would pay if they were earning the money to pay. The reason why they're not paying is because they don't have the money. So that's what we're dealing with here. The federal government also needs to step in to continue the $600 per week unemployment insurance, and to provide $2,000 per month throughout the duration of the pandemic.
That'd
This
be
is a
on top
chance for the federal government to step in. What'd you say? I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I cut you off. That $2,000 would be on top of the $600 a week.
Correct, 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 correct. And our documented and undocumented immigrants need to be a part of the conversation, because undocumented immigrants work hard and pay taxes too. They are a fabric of our community. They need to be a part of those conversations. So that's what we need going in the moment because of the pandemic. As we come out of the pandemic and we think about housing as a human right, and rent control and rent stabilization, and paying rent in alignment with your salary, no more than 30% of one's salary is what we're pushing for at a national level. Right now in this district and across the country, we have millions who are severely rent burdened, paying more than 50% of their salary towards rent. That's economic uh, oppression. That's economic enslavement, and that's because we use housing as a commodity and not as a human right. You know, I had the privilege of growing up I lived in public housing, and I lived in rent stabilized apartments that allowed my mother to pay rent based on her salary, allowed me to grow up in a working class community and go to diverse public schools. We need to give that opportunity to everyone. And there's a lot of work to be done on a federal level to get that done.
Um, you also ran a campaign of Reconstruction, and in light of everything that's been going on, um, not just these past couple of weeks, but hundreds of years. And you spoke about reparations. Can you talk a little bit more about the Reconstruction?
Yeah, you know, we're a sick society in so many ways. And we see that sickness manifested in police brutality, mass incarceration, economic inequality, miseducation, health outcomes, particularly when you look at maternal morbidity and infant mortality, disproportionately in the Black community. We are, when you look at suicide rates and homicide rates overall, we are sick, and we need to go through a process of what we call truth and reconciliation as a nation, really reflecting on our history, reckoning with our history, and reckoning with our legacy of racism in this country and how it continues, and discrimination, and how it continues to live in every American institution. We need a period of collective healing, both within the Black community, but within the entire nation overall. A period of collective healing so that we can become the country we are capable of becoming. And the process of truth and reconciliation, similar to Rwanda, similar to South Africa after apartheid, is what America needs more than anything. And the two times prior in our nation's history that we tried Reconstruction, it failed because of racist policies and Klansmen and white supremacy literally terrorizing and burning down our communities. So this is a process now in this moment as we live with, climate catastrophe, economic depression, racial unrest, and the global pandemic at the same time. This is the moment where we need to come together across the country and hold elected officials accountable to passing a policy that pushes for truth and reconciliation and reconstruction in a real way that includes everyone. That is why we're coming with our reconstruction agenda, and we believe that that's needed now more than ever.
So cute and so well said. So uh, hopefully November, get elected. What do your first 100 days look like?
Working, man, grinding. That's what my first 100 days is gonna look like, grinding, man. All the issues that we've spoken about. We have a mandate given to us by the people. The people want racial and economic justice, and the people want us to center human rights and justice for everyone, regardless of background. So it's our general mandate. And what that looks like when we get to Congress is a federal jobs guarantee, a federal minimum wage that's $15 an hour, not the $7.25 that it currently is, which is insane. Housing as a human right, fully funding public schools, uh, job training programs in addition to the federal jobs guarantee, and true investment in our communities, particularly those most neglected historically. That's our mission over the first 100 days. That's our mission over the first 1,000 days, looking at issues like tax reform and dealing with antitrust and anti-monopoly, breaking up these big banks and corporate farms and big tech is a part of that. and then looking differently at debt spending, inflation, taxes, and unemployment, because we have an archaic view of how all of that works, and we need a fresh look at that so that we can invest as much as we need to make sure every single person in this country who is ready, willing, and able to work is employed in a dignified job where they have health care and housing, dignified housing, and opportunity for self-determination. That's key for us. And that's our work, not just over the first 100 days, but throughout my time in Congress, focused on justice, bottom line.
So, speaking of self-determination, you also support the Puerto Rico Self-Determination Act that was
Mhm.
proposed by Congresswoman Nadia Velasquez on AOC. Um, what do you see? Like, how do you see that coming about?
Well, the bottom line is that the people of Puerto Rico need to determine their own future. And this has been voted on multiple times, over the course of several years. And the people of Puerto Rico had voted for, them to be empowered to determine what their future looks like. So our job is to support the people of Puerto Rico in doing that, not to impose what we believe they should do. Even though statehood sounds like something that that the majority of the people support, that's not what the voting in Puerto Rico has looked like over several years. So for me, I support that bill because it's about self-determination and the people of Puerto Rico building a future that works for them, and Congress doing its job in support of that work.
That's I'm half Puerto Rican, so I really appreciate your stance on that.
Oh, good, man.
And I know that on Twitter, you've been very vocal and also kind of holding accountable other leaders within the Democratic Party. Um, what changes do you think need to be made within the party, if you have any?
I think the party needs to do a better job of connecting with young people generally, and young people of color specifically. I think the DNC missed an opportunity when they only allowed AOC to speak for 60 seconds. I think that was an opportunity for her as a brilliant leader and communicator, and legislator, to pull in millions of young people and people of color from across the country to be a part of the Democratic Party. So we just need to do a better job of connecting with those communities. I think when you see the elections of the squad in 2018, myself, Mondare, and Cori Bush in 2020, that's exactly what we did to win our elections, and in some cases convincingly. I won my election by 16 points, and that happened because we knocked on doors in the projects. We knocked on the doors of the people who have been ignored. And that's the thing. These are the exact people we need to be connecting with because they are the most impacted by the harm of bad policy. So, the fact that we were able to grow the voter base is what led to us winning this election by 16 points. And what the Democratic Party tends to do is target the swing voter or the independent voter, as they should continue to do. But you also should grow your base because there's a base out there that neither the Democratic nor the Republican Party are speaking to. And there's a base out there that the Republican that don't even want to hear from the Republican Party at all, especially now with Trump. So this is an opportunity, to grow our base, to connect with young people, to connect with people of color, and to connect with organizations like the Justice Democrats, um, the Sunrise Movement, and many others, because these are youth-led political organizations who are transforming, the narrative in our country. And the Democratic Party would do well to work in collaboration with these organizations.
That's so true. Last question, changing gears. You're in your car, driving to the office. What Wu-Tang song are you playing?
Listen, man, I put it on shuffle. So I go to the Wu-Tang artist, shuffle, and whatever comes on, I'll rock with. The song, it's a good question because this week I'm rocking with a specific song, and that song is Bring the Ruckus.
Hey,
It's the first song on the Enter the 36 Chambers album. So I'm rocking with Bring the Ruckus this week. But just to be clear, like my hip hop palette goes beyond Wu-Tang. Okay, it's rooted in the golden era of hip hop, obviously. Karis One, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Coogee Rap, Public Enemy, X Clan, Brand Nubian, etc. But it includes Nas, it includes Jay-Z, it includes many others, Pop, Biggie. That's my era, and then new era like J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and some of the other cuts that's out there. I have a son who's 19, so I often ask him like, "Yo, what should I be listening to? Put me on." And he put me on to the baby and many others. And listen, it's not bad, man. I don't want to be one of those old dudes who hate on stuff. I don't want to be that. You know what I'm saying? I try to stay sharp and in all seriousness, what I love is I'm happy that the art of MCing has sustained itself throughout the culture from the beginning of the culture.
mm-hmm.
Like if you got bars, you got respect, and people say what they want to say about Cardi B. Cardi B got bars, yo. You know what I mean? Like she's shown that, So I appreciate that about the culture.
It's still the foundation, It's still the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a man of the people. You know what's going on, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Congressman-elect Jamaal Bowman, for speaking with me.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, definitely. And if you ever want to get something in the Bronx, go out to eat. You let me know.
Of course, man. We will do that for sure.
So, thank you.
Peace and love.